The premise of the movie is set in an advanced futuristic world. Virtual reality has become indistinguishable from the real world thanks to numerous modernized technologies. A big tech company organizes an exclusive virtual reality game, but unknown to the public, whatever happens in the game also happens in the real world, which means if the player dies in the game, he does in the real world as well. One morning, 8 civilians from New York City are called and are provided a chance to win $100,000, given that they agree to beta test a new virtual reality game. Even though the offer is random and sketchy, all 8 of them decide to take it and arrive at the given address. Upon meeting each other, they find out that they are all established gamers. The organizer of the game welcomes them through a one-way announcement to minimize the player's interaction with other humans. They are told to sign a contract before getting dressed in their armor. The players are only allowed to use each other's gaming names and keep personal interaction to a minimum. They wear motion suits before getting scanned and putting on their armor. It connects with their suit and becomes one with the player. The armor consists of 54 motion sensors that will help the players function properly in the virtual world. They are designed to let the players experience the closest possible experience to modern warfare. Everyone gets dressed immediately except for one player named Terrorist. He is hesitant because of his name, which was supposed to be ironic. He is also doubtful of the technology they're testing and thinks it might be harmful. The others ask him to go back home, but the doors to the room don't open. It turns out that the game cannot start without all players joining. Eventually, Terrorist is convinced to join the others. The armor starts and the room changes completely. The white modern interior is replaced with the rustic walls of an abandoned building. The players are shaken because it is almost like they teleported to some other place. Not just the wall, but their clothes also change into army uniforms, and their tattoos and any scarring on their body vanish. One player tries touching the beer bottles lying around, but his hand goes through them. This game sucks. Another guy opens his helmet to see where he is, and sure enough, he is still in the same room. Putting the helmet back on, he joins the other in front of the window. Outside, a chopper is fighting battles in the middle of a destroyed city. A player named Reaper is the most excited out of everyone. He has been dreaming of getting to experience this level of virtual reality every day. His excitement paints him as a fool in front of everyone, but he doesn't seem to care. That's a true gamer. As they wonder what they should do next, the army captain appears and orders them to stand close. Everyone is intimidated by the man, but then they realize he is not real. When they take their helmets off, they are back in the white room with no captain around. The players, amazed by the technology, decide to continue to explore it. They grab a gun each and test firing at the bottles. Seeing the players get irresponsible with the guns, the captain shoots a guy, showing them that their body armor is destroyed with a single hit. He warns them not to get hit a second time, and the players assume they will get eliminated if they do. The captain explains that their building has been overrun by a group of highly trained terrorists. The players' aim is to fight them and make it to the ground floor. They are each given a medikit, which will help them if they get hurt. The game starts on the 25th floor, and the players start looking around. Initially, they are excited and not so careful, but it is until a terrorist suddenly appears in front of them. Shooter quickly dodges and kills the man, revealing that he is a trained soldier. Everyone else feels relieved to have someone like him in the group. They are also a lot more careful after this. The win takes them to level 24, which has a high voltage threat involved. They get a bunch of new weapons because as the levels decrease, the dangers increase. A man named Alta gets the first kill and is thrilled to see blood on the floor. He grows more violent with each shot and kills many opponents. Reaper gets the least kills and is almost shot by a terrorist before Shooter saves him. However, in the process, Shooter gets shot and loses his armor. A girl named Taylor reveals that she came to her friend's place and wasn't supposed to be in the game. She panics and breaks into tears, while another girl named Mustang comforts her. Suddenly, the 5th member of the group, Cox, gets shot twice. He drops to the ground and cries in pain. Everyone else is confused because the suit is not supposed to make them feel pain. Even when Cox takes off his helmet, the pain won't go away. He is immediately injected with the medikit, which finally helps him with the pain. He is now sure that the game is not what they think it is. The first gunshot might not do them any harm, but the second one will definitely kill them. Some of them think that they are in a reality show, but none want to continue playing. Terrorist tries taking his helmet off before realizing that he is stuck. In a panic, Alta starts blaming Shooter for being in on the death game. Shooter, in turn, storms off to another room. What the players do not know is that the next level game has already started, which means the place is swarming with terrorists. Before Shooter knows it, he is shot in the back. Outside, the other players are also attacked, but they manage to dodge in time. Taylor tries running down to a lower level, but the game stops her because they aren't allowed to go down before they complete the previous level. Reaper thinks fast and throws a grenade at the enemy, killing them at once. When everything goes silent, silent, they return to Shooter and find him dead in the hallway. This confirms that a player's death is possible and makes everyone nervous. They have to proceed to the next level soon, but Terrorist suggests they try taking their helmets off first. A member named Da Chief warns them to stop, but Cox and Terrorist don't listen. They forcefully try taking their helmets off, which causes the virtual captain to get mad at them. He pushes Terrorist to the ground and kicks him repeatedly, commanding him to never try breaking the rules again. The group finally accepts that the only way to get out alive is by winning the game. They go down 2 more floors and reach the 20th. The challenge is to use knives at this level, because the place has had a gas leak, and any gunshot will blow the entire thing up. The first few seconds into the game, the Chief is almost killed before Alta saves him. He could do anything to survive and is the most dangerous out of all of them. Following his steps, the group does great in the next few levels. However, they also lose many medikits through the process. At one point, Mustang is left with the last kit, but both Reaper and Cox are hurt. As she deliberates who she should save, Terrorist comes to their aid and saves Cox with his last medikits. As they pass a few more levels, they stop to rest. The game is getting harder, and they are running out of medikits rapidly. Terrorist starts banging a glass wall, trying to get out of the building. He is successful to some level, but is stopped by the virtual captain. He beats up Terrorist and breaks his leg, with a bone protruding out of his leg. Terrorist is now a burden to the group. Alta suggests they leave him, but the others want to take him along. In the end, Terrorist hides under a table and asks everyone else to continue the game. He slowly loses consciousness and dies sometime later. In the next level, the group struggles the most because they are outnumbered by the terrorists. Taylor, who hasn't had a single kill, hides in a room the entire time the others fight, but by the end of the level, she kills a man and gets ready to kill some more. When they complete the level, the group decides to rest for a while. As they chat about their lives outside of the game, Cox realizes that all of them have no close family or friends. Reaper only has a grandmother who has Alzheimer's. Mustang's family lives abroad. The Chief is an orphan. Taylor wasn't even supposed to be here, and Alta is divorced. If any of them die and never return home, no one would care. They are all true gamers. This might mean that the organizer of the game selected them, hoping to see them die. The information fuels their anger, getting them ready for the next round. Upon reaching the next level, they find the captain beating up an enemy prisoner. He reveals that there is a bomb wired through the foundation of the building, and only the prisoner knows the code to turn it off. Their next task is to get the code out of the prisoner. The task is easier than the rest, hence the group gets to work immediately. The Chief pushes buttons that electrocute the prisoner. When he is at his lowest, he whispers that the code is Pushkin. As soon as Reaper puts the code in, the lights go off. When they turn back on, a voice warns them that the explosive has been triggered, and in the next 30 minutes, the entire building will blow up. Alta panics and starts blaming Reaper for putting in the wrong code. The only way to stop the explosion is by shutting it down manually when they reach the parking lot, which means they only have 30 minutes to go down the next 9 floors. Taylor kills the man who gave them the wrong password before asking everyone to hurry up. Suddenly, Alta loses his mind and starts hitting Reaper out of frustration. He only stops when the captain gives them an advantage by opening up the elevator for them. It stops on the 5th floor, but closes before Alta and Reaper can get out. They are nervous at first, but realize that the elevator is taking them further down. They eventually get off on the 3rd floor when only 25 minutes are left before detonation. Reaper suggests they wait until others make it downstairs. However, Alta is against the idea. He points a gun at Reaper, using him as a human shield to get to the other side of the room. At this point, he just wants to get out alive and doesn't care if he has to kill his teammates for it. They soon come across an enemy, and Reaper runs out of ammo. At last, he is shot and killed, while Alta runs away from behind him. In hiding, he cannot help but cry at the person he is turning into, but it doesn't end his will to live. Soon, the others arrive, having completed the upper 2 levels. They find Reaper's body, but have no clue that his death was Alta's fault. They get in position before killing the rest of the 3rd floor enemies. Taylor goes into the medical room to look for more medikits and finds one. However, Alta arrives there at the same time and tries to take it from her. When the two get into a fight, he kills Taylor and walks away without feeling an ounce of regret. Minutes later, Cox runs into Alta and comforts him, thinking that he feels bad about his friend's death. But then he finds Taylor's dead body and Alta's name written on the wall with her blood. Upon finding out that he is the killer, Cox attacks the guy and the two get into a fight. At one point, Cox hits Alta with a fire extinguisher, which makes the captain believe that Alta is trying to take his helmet off. Because they had already been warned, Alta is attacked and strangled to death as punishments. Now only Cox, Mustang, and the Chief are left out of all 8 players. They gear up and run down to the 1st floor, finally reaching the parking lot. It is filled with enemies who fire at them repeatedly. As the group bravely moves forward, Cox is shot. He has a medikit to save himself, but before he uses uses it, he sees Mustang being shot as well. Cox doesn't even think before using the last kit on her and dying himself in her place. With only seconds left before the explosive goes off, the Chief runs towards it and shuts it down at the last second. The helmets stop working, and the two are transported back to the White Room. The Chief is suddenly surrounded by a group of soldiers, but doesn't seem surprised. This is when we find out that he is the organizer of the game, who plays with people's lives for fun. Before Mustang can react, she is sedated and taken away. We see the data about the dead players being permanently deleted to get rid of the evidence of their death. The scene changes to the actual parking lot of the building. Mustang lies unconscious as the dead bodies of her friends are put in body bags to be disposed of. When she wakes up, the Chief stands in front of her with a bag full of prize money. He wants her to forget about what happened and enjoy life as he does. All she has to do is promise to keep everything a secret, and she will be sedated again and taken home. Surprisingly enough, Mustang agrees and wishes him goodbye. A man then comes to sedate her again, but Mustang takes him by surprise and fights back. She eventually overpowers him and shoots out the lights, making the place pitch black. Taking advantage of the darkness, she kills all of the Chief's men, leaving him with no backup. In a final showdown, she throws the bag at the Chief, not wanting to use the money that caused so many deaths. At last, she walks out of the building, being the only person who makes it out alive from the game. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching. The movie begins as we are introduced to a new horror game called Stay Alive. This game is still under beta testing stage, so the company has asked a lot of people to test the game, one of whom is a guy named Loomis. In the game, he expertly kills a lot of enemies and moves on to the next stage, which is a haunted mansion. The place is riddled with several spirits, but most of them are harmless. However, when Loomis's character climbs up the stairs, a woman in red suddenly attacks him from behind and hangs him from the ceiling. After the game is over, Loomis becomes upset that he couldn't win, but fear and adrenaline also runs through his veins, as he hasn't played such a realistic game in a long time. Later, he calls his childhood friend Hutch and invites him to his place to play with him. However, Hutch says he can't make it, so they agree to see each other later that weekend. Afterwards, Loomis hears a sound from upstairs and goes to check what it is, but it is just his buddy Rex and his girlfriend Sarah having fun. Shortly after, Loomis falls asleep, but is soon woken up by a nightmare. Unable to sleep, he goes downstairs to drink a glass of milk. Out of the blue, a shadow appears in front of him, which sends Loomis running upstairs. To his horror, he finds Rex and Sarah brutally killed in their room. Suddenly, a chain wraps around Loomis's neck, and he is hanged to death, which is exactly the same way his character died in the game. The next day, Loomis's friend Hutch is seen at his workplace. His boss, Miller, calls him into his office with a very serious look. Hutch is afraid that he's going to get scolded, but to his surprise, Miller simply asks for advice on the new video game he's bought. This implies that he's also an avid gamer. Gamer bosses are the best bosses. Afterwards, Hutch learns about the death of Loomis and his friends, which sends him into a state of shock. The next day, he attends the funeral and gives his condolences to the bereaved families. As Hutch reminisces about the good times spent with his friends, Loomis's sister walks up to him and hands him a bag containing her late brother's video games. She says that her parents wouldn't allow her to play the games and that Loomis would want Hutch to have them. Shortly after, Hutch also meets the deceased girl, Sarah's best friend, Abigail. She empathizes with him and gives him her number, mentioning that he can call her if he needs someone to talk to. Oh, you don't say. After the funeral, Hutch visits his friend October and her brother Phineas. October comforts Hutch and helps him grieve, while Phineas makes light of the situation. Moments later, Phineas finds the Stay Alive game in the bag, and Hutch reveals that it was the same game Loomis was playing the night he died. He also adds that Loomis had invited him to play with him, which he refused. After hearing everything, Phineas becomes eager to play the game, but Hutch thinks it's inappropriate. However, when a stubborn Phineas asserts that it could be a tribute to their late friend, he agrees. Later that day, several other players arrive at Hutch's house, including his other friend, Swink, and the girl from the funeral, Abigail. Phineas and his sister October are also there. After they set up all the devices and boot up the game, Hutch's boss Miller joins them online from his office. Before the game starts, a strange prayer appears on the screen, and they are instructed to read it to start the game. The group naively obliges, and after they finish reciting the prayer, the game tells them that they have made a grave grave mistake, and they will die for it. However, Hutch and his friends aren't fazed by the threat, and they proceed to choose their avatars. In the game, the players must uncover the horrible truth of a place named the Garouge Plantation. In order to win, the players have to defeat ghosts and demons, including the main villainess, Countess Elizabeth. The players may also use a rose to escape ghosts that they can't defeat. October remembers hearing about the story of the Countess, but she isn't able to recall the exact details. Soon, the game begins, and as the others get busy killing demons, Miller makes his way into a mausoleum. Inside, he explores the tunnels. He also runs out of roses and soon stumbles upon a torture chamber. Just as Miller relays the information back to his teammates, the Countess of the plantation suddenly appears behind him and stabs his character in the neck to death. Soon October gets bored of the game and convinces everyone to log off and call it a night. Then all of them return to their respective homes. Meanwhile, Miller, who is still at his office, sees a dark figure running outside. Brushing it aside, he closes his office and proceeds to walk away. But suddenly, the main door mysteriously opens again. Puzzled, he returns to inspect and notices a controller laying on the floor. Suddenly, the Countess from the video game appears in real life and attacks Miller. She kills him by stabbing him in the neck, and he dies in the same way his character died in the game. And people say the rapid evolution of AI art isn't scary. The next day, Hutch arrives at work and becomes horrified to learn that his boss has died. Two detectives, Thibodeau and King, investigate the case and interrogate all the employees. When it's Hutch's turn, he reveals that Miller was playing an online game with him and his friends right before he died. Hearing this, King starts to suspect Hutch, as he lives awfully near the office. That evening, the group again gathers at Hutch's place to discuss the incident. Everyone is shocked by Miller's death, but Phineas just wants to continue with the game. This pisses off the rest of the group, prompting them to leave the room. Outside, they discuss Miller's death, and Hutch notes that he died the same way his character did. With this theory, he presumes that Loomis's death also had something to do with the game. Hence, the group suddenly grows worried for Phineas and returns inside to check up on him. Fortunately, the nerd is just smoking, and it is revealed that he was about to die in the game, but he paused it in the nick of time. Later, everyone that played the game begins to experience visions and see horrific scenes. Searching for answers, Hutch goes to his office and looks up online more information about the recent deaths. He learns that everyone, Loomis, Rex, Miller, and Sarah, died the same way their characters did in the game Stay Alive. Taken aback, he meets his friends and shares the entire ordeal with them. October believes it immediately, and she tells everyone the story of the Garouge Plantation, which she heard from her grandmother. It turns out the game is based on the real-life story of Countess Elizabeth Bathory. The Countess used to hunt for innocent victims in a black carriage and gut them with silver shears. So, as punishment for her sins, people had walled the Countess in the plantation's tower alive. The scene then cuts to Phineas, who is headed somewhere alone. As he drives, a woman suddenly appears in front of him, causing him to swerve his car violently. Fortunately, he gets out unharmed and calls his friends for help. Phineas also shares that he's been seeing and hearing creepy things lately. Hutch and the others rush to pick him up. However, before they can arrive, Phineas again starts to hear weird noises, much to his horror. Suddenly, a black carriage appears and runs him over, killing him instantly. Later, when Hutch and the others reach the place, they find Phineas's body on the road. When they check his laptop inside the car, it's revealed that even his game character had died in the same way. I don't know, guys. I think it's all a coincidence. Soon, the cops arrive and Hutch tells them about the game and its relation with the deaths of the victims. But Detective Thibodeau finds it hard to believe and instead warns Hutch against joking over such matters. Meanwhile, curious about the game, Detective King decides to give it a try, but he quickly loses and his character dies before Hutch could stop him. As the detectives leave, October and the others become determined to get to the bottom of the truth. Hutch decides to find out everything he can about the game, while October plans to look for whoever killed Phineas. Elsewhere, Detective King goes to a game shop to find more information about the game. However, he doesn't find anything, and instead, he gets brutally murdered in his car by the Countess. On the other hand, Hutch and Abigail sneak into Loomis's house to find more information about the game. There, it is revealed that Hutch spent his entire childhood living in Loomis's home because his eccentric father thought his wife was cheating on him, so he burned down their house. Unfortunately, Hutch was the only one to survive, as his mom perished in the fire, and his dad was sent to prison. Meanwhile, Swink and October are at Hutch's place reading books about the Countess and the Garouge Plantation. Just then, they get a call from Hutch, and October tells him that she has found a way to defeat the Countess. All they need to do is put 3 nails through the Countess's heart, neck, and forehead to force her human spirit back into her body. October also mentions that the Countess is afraid of mirrors, and that's the only way to repel her. Seconds later, they learn from the news that Detective King is dead, and soon after, a swarm of cops show up at Hutch's place. Fortunately, Swink and October quickly pack their stuff and flee through the fire exit. After a while, all of them meet up at Loomis's house and realize the game is being played automatically on Swink's computer. They then see October's character on the screen, making them wonder where she is. At the same time, October is wandering outside the house when she sees the Countess inside an abandoned property. Determined to end the madness once and for all, she follows the devil inside. There, she picks up a nail gun and attacks the Countess when she sees her. But to her surprise, the attack doesn't work, and the Countess remains unharmed. Left with no choice, October tries to flee the property, but the Countess catches her using a shackle. She then hangs October by the ankle. Hutch and his friends hear her scream and rush inside the building to help. Unfortunately, when they arrive, it's already too late, as October has been finished off brutally. Later, the devastated group heads off to the address, where the Countess has apparently been locked. As all the friends are dying one by one, Swink figures out that one has to keep on playing, so that the others can use this distraction as an opportunity to complete their mission. In the next scene, they arrive at their location and split up. Hutch and Abigail make their way inside the mansion, while Swink stays in the van to play the game. After a while, Swink finds out that the mansion is actually the same Garouge plantation from the game, so he calls Hutch and helps him navigate through the house with the help of the game. Hutch wanders around different parts of the property, like the cemetery, and verifies that it is indeed the real Garouge plantation. Meanwhile, Abigail makes her way upstairs into a room where she finds a doll that looks exactly like the Countess. She then enters a wardrobe which leads into another part of the house. There, she sees pictures and articles about the plantation, and also finds the Countess's shears. All of a sudden, it becomes dark, and Abigail screams out loud, prompting Hutch to run back inside the house. He asks Swink where he should go, and the latter starts unlocking every door in the game for Hutch to access. This is possible because now, what happens in the game also happens in real life. Hutch eventually reaches the wardrobe where the Countess is about to kill Abigail, and in the nick of time, Swink throws roses at her in the game, causing her to vanish. Upon rescuing her, Hutch kisses Abigail, and the two have an emotional moment, and people say gamers don't get babes. Afterwards, the two listen as Swink tells them to find 3 nails and get the roses. While Swink is outside talking to Hutch, the van doors suddenly close with the computer still inside. Fortunately, right before the Countess is about to kill his character in the game, he opens the door and saves himself. Shortly after, the Countess comes for him in real life, even though his character is still alive. With no other choice, Swink runs for his life and eventually trips over a bush of roses. Meanwhile, the newly formed couple reach the van and find Swink's game character dead. Hence, they start collecting roses and nails to kill the real Countess in the tower. Suddenly, the carriage comes after them, and Hutch locks Abigail inside the room. He then uses a rose to scare the Countess away. Following this, the couple head towards the torture chamber, and then towards the tower, where the real Countess is supposedly locked. But unfortunately, the door closes itself, and Abigail gets separated from Hutch. Realizing that they don't have enough time before the spirit catches up to them, Abigail urges him to leave her and finish the mission alone. Hutch is reluctant, but after much insisting, he hands her a rose and departs. Shortly after, he reaches the top of the tower and finds the Countess's body in a coffin. Without further ado, he then starts hammering the nails into her body. Elsewhere, the Countess's spirit has captured Abigail and is about to finish her off, but before she can do so, Hutch hammers the last nail into her forehead, causing the spirit to evaporate. Thinking that the mission is finally over, Hutch prepares to leave, but unfortunately, the Countess gets up, and all the nails that were driven inside of her fall to the ground. Taken aback, Hutch grabs his reflective laptop and keeps her at bay, long enough so that he can set the room on fire. However, in the process, he also gets trapped, and is forced to relive the horrible incident he suffered as a child. But just then, Swink comes to the rescue, and saves them with the help of Abigail. It's revealed that he was never killed because of the rose bushes he fell on top of. Then the 3 friends quickly flee, while the evil Countess's body burns in the tower. A few days later, a video game shop receives a copy of the Stay Alive game, which he finds very interesting. And in no time, the store starts selling several copies of it. The movie ends as the Countess once again emerges from the tower, ready to pounce on more victims. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching. In the year 2800, two astronauts from Earth, Adam and Jake, are seen in their spaceship. They are flying to a planet named Antares, which is rumored to have a large settlement of humans. It turns out that a deadly virus has left women back on Earth completely barren, so the two astronauts are the only hope left for humanity. Their mission is to venture to Antares, find some women, and convince them to travel to Earth for the boys. Shortly after, when the spaceship nears Antares, it suddenly becomes unstable due to the strange gravitational pull there. Adam and Jake try their best to regain control of the ship, and to some extent they do, but it still ends up crashing on the surface. Both the astronauts sustain minor injuries, but Jake comes off the worst of it. Adam quickly escorts him out before the smoke inside suffocates them. Then we are shown an aerial shot of the planet, Antares. It is a barren wasteland that has large formations of rocks everywhere with no signs of vegetation. Meanwhile, Adam operates on Jake's wounds and injects him with a futuristic syringe that heals him automatically. As the two are conversing, suddenly, a dog's barking is heard. Up until now, they had believed that life on the planet was just a rumor, but with the bark, they get renewed motivation, and Adam starts following the sound. After a bit of wandering around, he comes across a primitive-looking boy, clutching his dog with a worried look. Adam tries to get near him, but the scared boy says the snakeheads are near, and runs away. Unfortunately, just after a few minutes, he is captured by the snakeheads, who appear to actually be women clad in primitive military costumes. They quickly knock the little boy out and take him into custody, while his dog runs away. On the other hand, Adam is inspecting the strange place when a massive earthquake rocks him. Scared, he immediately calls Jake via his high-tech watch and asks him to take a geoscan of the area. Following this, Adam ventures further deep into the land until he comes across a large temple. He covertly sneaks inside and is taken aback to witness a large number of women there. It turns out that on this planet, women rule everything, while men are forced to become slaves, and a few of them are used to procreate. Inside the temple, the women appear to be chanting some prayers for their serpent lord. Here, we get to know that the religious women belong to a cult, which is led by the fearless Taxan. Right then, the serpent lord also appears from the ground, which is a gigantic cobra. We are then introduced to the queen of planet Antares, Sumuru, who seems to be less than impressed by the cult's work. Meanwhile, the little boy from earlier is brought to the room. As Adam watches with shock and horror, Taxan reveals that the boy is about to be sacrificed to the serpent lord. Hearing this, the boy's sister Dove, who happens to be one of the queen's soldiers, starts fighting with Taxan's cult members. Here it is revealed that the women inside the temple are divided into two factions, one that works for Taxan and the other that follows the queen. As everyone watches on, Dove continues fighting alone, and suddenly the serpent lord swoops down and gobbles up one of the cult members. An enraged Taxan orders her women to capture Dove, but the queen stops them, claiming it was just self-defense. The two leaders almost get into an argument of their own, but just then, Adam, who has been hiding in a corner, gets a call from his friend, which alerts everyone in the room. Taxan immediately orders her soldiers to go after him, but Adam uses one of his high-end guns to create a diversion and flee. During the chaos, the little boy, Will, also manages to escape from the temple. After a while, Adam and the little boy catch up and head to the spaceship to escape this planet. However, before Adam can enter, he is shot in the leg by one of Taxan's women. Still, with the help of Jake and the boy, he manages to get inside the spaceship, but the arrow appears to be poisoned, causing him to slowly lose consciousness. Outside, the queen arrives with her own army and tells Taxan's cult gang to go away. At first, they refuse to comply, claiming that it is perfectly legal for women to kill men, but when Sumuru asserts that she is the queen and that she has jurisdiction over everything, they reluctantly leave. Following this, the queen enters the spaceship and confronts the aliens. She then takes out an anti-venom and injects it in Adam, hence saving his life. In the next scene, Adam and Jake are brought to the queen's residence, where they manage to meet up privately. Jake reveals that according to the geoscans he conducted earlier, he found out that the planet is dying, and that is why the earthquakes are so frequent. At max, the planet has 2 months before it ultimately self-destructs. Later, Adam is taken to the queen's chamber for interrogation. He introduces himself and mentions that he is from planet Earth. He also claims that the people on Antares are descendants from Earth, as some people were sent on a terraforming mission 1,000 years back. They regularly reported their findings for the first 100 years, but after that, all communication ceased. The Earth also went through a deadly war, and that is why they didn't try to find out much about their people on Antares. Hearing all of this, the queen is taken aback, but she nonetheless supports the claims, as their legend mentions of a planet called Earth. As the two continue talking, the topic of the snake cult comes up. Queen Sumuru reveals that due to the continuous earthquakes, the people reverted to religion, and that is when Taxan rose to power. She comes from an extremely noble family and believed that she was destined to become the queen. However, the people didn't elect her. This is why she has been gathering cult followers so that one day she can take the throne for herself. As for the large cobra, it just appeared out of nowhere. Shocked by the revelations, Adam tries to explain that the planet is dying and that everyone should immediately evacuate, but the queen doesn't want to listen to a man. Instead, she starts talking about why men are dominated on Antares. She reveals that long ago, the men ignited a large flash of light, which killed a lot of people. From that day onwards, the women have taken control over the land, and it is perfectly legal to kill men if they are found to be disobedient. Shortly after, the queen leads Adam to a primitive mine, where all the men are working as laborers. According to the queen, men are either used as slaves, for sacrifices, or occasionally used to procreate. The sight disgusts Adam, but when he tries to speak out his thoughts, he is beaten up and taken away. Unfortunately, while the guards are escorting him back to the queen's residence, they are attacked by Taxan's gang. The notorious cult members slay all of the queen's guards and apprehend Adam. Sadly, among the casualties is also Dove. As she breathes her last, her brother Will arrives to help her, but it is too late. Meanwhile, Adam is brought to Taxan's chambers, where the Serpent Queen asks him to join their cause. She even kisses him passionately to seduce him into their team. However, Adam, being the wise guy that he is, refuses straight away. "I'm an astronaut, lady, not a simp." This causes an altercation between the two, but before Adam can get hurt, the Queen, Jake, and Will, disguised as guards, come to his rescue. Taxan tries to fight back, but the Queen knocks her out with a single punch before leaving. On their way out through the tunnels, the astronauts discuss the state of the planet, and Jake reveals that they have less time than he had guessed earlier. According to his recent calculations, Antares may blow up in a matter of days. The Queen overhears their conversation and brings out her locket, which has a special kind of element in it. It turns out that the element is extracted from a place called the Burn Zone, which is the same spot that the spaceship from Earth landed 1,000 years ago. Hearing this, the astronauts get excited because if they can somehow reach the place and restart the ship, they can head back to Earth. The Queen also agrees to help them, and together, they start marching towards the Burn Zone. Along the way, they evade several of Taxan's goons, and also manage to free some men who were locked up as slaves. Once they finally reach outside, Queen Sumeru tells the astronauts that they still have to travel several kilometers, as the Burn Zone is located behind a large hill. Despite the challenges, and the Serpent Group hot on their tails, Jake and Adam decide to continue their journey. Shortly after, Adam tries convincing the Queen to come along with them, mentioning that it's much safer up there on Earth. However, she politely declines, asserting that she doesn't rule the people, but serves them, which I guess means that she should let them all die. Just then, a massive earthquake hits, which causes the group to tumble down. With this, Jake deduces that the planet's impending doom is nearing. After a while, the group comes across the skeletal remains of a man, and when Jake examines it, he learns that the man died some 900 years ago, the same year that humans came to Antares. On further inspection, he also finds out that there was a solar blast in the area, and that is why most of the men perished. Hearing this, the Queen realizes that it was the same flash of light that their ancestors witnessed centuries ago. Since the light was caused by natural causes, the men were innocent after all. Hence, all these years, their religion, which stated that men are dangerous and evil, was built upon a lie. The revelation devastates the Queen, but the boys tell her to keep moving, as they don't have much time left. In the next scene, the group finally arrives outside the Burn Zone, which appears to be a huge space dome. Jake and little Will try to restart the engine from the control room, while Adam and the Queen head to another room to engineer the controls from there. After a lot of struggle, the astronauts manage to reignite the engine, but unfortunately, Taxan and her goons also show up. A deadly battle ensues between the two parties, but Adam, with the high-end gadgets, manages to blow up most of the evil women. Now, only Taxan is remaining, but she challenges the Queen to a fair one-on-one combat, to which the latter agrees. At first, the two are equally matched, but soon, using her impressive combat techniques, the Queen gains the upper hand. Realizing that she is about to lose, the evil Taxan takes out her knife and lunges forward to attack, but once again, the Queen easily counters. After beating up the Serpent Queen for a while, the Queen throws her against a generator, electrocuting her to a pulp. Still, the resilient Taxan is unwilling to give up, and she charges at the Queen with her knife, but this time, Adam fires at her and finishes her once and for all. At the end of the day, men and guns have their way. Hell yeah, amen, brother. Back in the control room, Jake has managed to start the spaceship, and it is now ready for takeoff. After learning that men are not responsible for any of the atrocities on Antares, and that the planet is dying, the Queen also decides to join Jake, Adam, and Will in their journey to the Earth. Soon, the spaceship takes off and flies into the air. All the people of Antares, the men, the Queen's soldiers, and even Taxxan's cult members gaze at the large spaceship in awe. Seeing them without their leader, Adam feels bad and suggests that they bring everyone inside the ship, as it has enough space for 500 people. Jake tries to assert that the violent earthquakes can destroy the ship, but Adam and the Queen are willing to take their chances. Left with no choice, Jake obliges to the orders and starts descending the spaceship. Soon, they arrive on the surface, and the people are awestruck to witness the large structure, which they previously called the burn zone. The Queen Sumeru steps out and orders everyone to get inside, mentioning that their planet is about to die, so that they are venturing into a far-away planet. The planet will have several other people, where there is no disparity in gender, race, or religion. Oh, I guess they're not talking about Earth after all. Hearing this, the people become excited, and they immediately enter the ship. However, before Jake and Adam can pilot the spaceship away from the planet, a massive earthquake rocks everyone. When they look outside, they notice the giant serpent attacking one of the ship's propellers. With time running out, Adam orders Jake to apply full throttle on the propeller, and fortunately, as soon as he does so, the serpent backs off because of the fire released from the propeller. With this, the spaceship finally takes off and leaves planet Antares forever. In the final scene, a woman enters the control room and hands little Will his lost dog. Apparently, the dog was saved by the woman, who also hid it from Taxxan. The movie ends as everyone inside the control room plays with the puppy, while the spaceship blasts off to Earth. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.